China just shocked the world with what they're building. But almost nobody's talking about what's really at stake. This isn't just concrete and steel. It's control over every essential resource a superpower needs to survive and dominate. Imagine diverting 14.8 billion cubic meters of the Yangtze North every year, sustaining 250 million people and severing a region's ancient dependence overnight. Layer on the world's largest dam, generating enough power to light up megacities, while entire towns vanish and landslides threaten everything downstream. It's the boldest infrastructure gamble on Earth, one that could grant Beijing near total leverage over water, energy, and the destiny of a continent. But at what hidden cost? Here's how the story begins. 14.8 billion cubic meters of water, enough to fill 6 million Olympic swimming pools, now flows north every year through a ribbon of concrete and earth that stretches 1,267 kilometers from the Danjiangkou Reservoir to the heart of Beijing. This is the central route of China's South-North Water Transfer Project, the world's longest water diversion scheme. Its mission: to rescue the parched cities and farmlands of North China, home to 250 million people, from a future defined by drought and dust storms. Before the canal, Beijing's water table sank by up to 2 meters each year. Wells ran dry, crops withered, and factories rationed their output. Now, the capital draws 70% of its supply from southern rivers. The promise: water independence for the north, and with it, economic security for a region that generates 1/5 of China's GDP. But every drop comes at a price. To make way for the rising waters of Danjiangkou and the canal's path, more than 345,000 people were uprooted from their homes. Entire villages vanished beneath the reservoir. In Henan and Hubei, families who had farmed the same land for generations found themselves resettled in new concrete towns, often with smaller plots and unfamiliar soil. One farmer, forced to leave his ancestral fields, put it simply: "We became water migrants. The river took our land, and the city took our future." The human cost is matched by the risks beneath the surface. The canal cuts through the Kinling Mountains, a region plagued by landslides and tremors. Engineers monitor slopes and embankments around the clock, wary of sudden collapse or seismic shifts that could rupture the lifeline to the north. Officials in Beijing now call their city water secure for the first time in living memory. Yet in the villages left behind, the sense of loss lingers. For some, the canal stands as proof that in China, nature itself can be bent to serve the needs of the nation, if enough people are willing to pay the price. On the Yangtze River, a concrete wall 2.5 kilometers wide now holds back the world's largest reservoir. The Three Gorges Dam, with a generating capacity of 22.5 gigawatts, produces around 100 terawatt-hours of electricity each year, enough to power the entire country of the Netherlands. Its turbines feed the grids of Shanghai, Nanjing, and Wuhan, keeping China's coastal factories running day and night. For shipping, the river has been transformed. Where floods once halted cargo traffic for months, container ships now move year-round through a regulated waterway. The volume of goods passing through has jumped 5-fold since the dam's completion, turning the Yangtze into China's commercial backbone. But here's where the story turns. Every year, the dam traps more than 170 million tons of sediment that once flowed downstream. In the delta, farmers now watch their fields shrink as the river's silt no longer rebuilds their land. Fish populations have plummeted, some species pushed to the edge of extinction. By 2019, soil scientists were warning that the dam's sediment trap could choke the delta's fertility for generations, even as it buys only a few decades of stable hydropower. The price of control is paid in other ways, too. In June 2009, after days of heavy rain, a hillside above Badong County began to split. Cracks widened overnight. At dawn, an eyewitness described hearing a deep, slow rumble. Then the entire slope gave way. The landslide buried homes, swept away a stretch of road, and left more than a dozen villagers dead or missing. Geologists later linked the disaster to rapid drawdowns in the reservoir's water level, which had weakened the slope's base just as the rains arrived. Local hazard logs show that warnings had been filed 36 hours before the collapse, but evacuation orders lagged behind bureaucratic uncertainty. For the families who lost everything, the dam's promise of progress is hard to reconcile with the risks that now shadow the river. As China's engineers look to expand the reservoir and boost storage, the lessons of Badong linger, a reminder that even the most powerful walls can't always hold back the forces they unleash. 55 kilometers of steel and concrete now sweep across the mouth of the Pearl River, linking Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau in a single, uninterrupted drive. This is the world's longest sea bridge, tunnel system, built to withstand some of the most violent typhoons on record. The span includes a 6.7-kilometer immersed tunnel, sunk beneath shipping lanes where bottlenose dolphins once surfaced in the hundreds. Marine biologists warned of rising porpoise deaths as construction churned up the bay, but the project pressed on. Its deep-water foundations designed to serve not just commuters, but rapid logistics and, in emergencies, military convoys. At the northern edge of the city, another record breaker rises from former farmland. Beijing. Daxing International Airport covers 700,000 square meters under a single roof, the largest terminal on Earth. The starfish-shaped hub is engineered for 100 million passengers a year, with high-speed rail and metro lines feeding directly into its heart. Yet the airport's expansion has drawn fire from villagers forced off their land, and from auditors tracing cost overruns and whistleblower complaints about substandard steel in the outer shell. One internal report warned, "Every shortcut taken here is a risk paid for in the air." For China's planners, these gateways fuse the country's resource core to global air and sea routes, at a cost measured in lost habitats, lost homes, and questions that still echo through the audit files. 1,000 kilometers from the Yangtze, Pakistani truck convoys snake through the mountains toward the Arabian Sea. Their destination, the $62 billion deepwater port at Gwadar, where cranes now stack 1 million shipping containers each year. This port is China's ticket past the Malacca Strait, a maritime choke point watched closely by rival navies. Instead of risking delays or blockades, Chinese oil and goods now flow overland. 650 kilometers of new highways and rails cut through some of the world's most volatile terrain. In April 2021, a Balak insurgent attack forced an emergency lockdown, with security teams racing to shield workers and cargo. Insurance costs soared, but the project pressed on, each successful convoy tightening China's grip on a direct trade corridor to the Middle East. Meanwhile, north of Beijing, another kind of experiment unfolds at 350 kilometers per hour. The Beijing-Zhangjiakou high-speed rail, built for the Winter Olympics, slashes travel time to just 47 minutes. Engineers battle frost heave and shifting ground, with maintenance logs showing repeated repairs after permafrost thaws beneath the tracks. One memo warns, "Every cold snap is a test of our design." For China, this isn't just about moving athletes. It's a showcase for selling cold climate rail technology abroad, proof that their trains can master even the harshest winters. 33,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables now stretch from Shanghai to Nairobi, threading through more than 70 countries. Along this digital backbone, 15,000 5G base stations blink to life each year, embedding Chinese hardware and software deep into the networks of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. For governments from Ethiopia to Malaysia, the promise is clear: faster connections, cheaper infrastructure, and a seat at the table of the digital economy. But the contract fine print tells another story. Kenyan civil society groups have flagged clauses that give Chinese vendors emergency access to core network equipment, so-called backdoors, allowing remote updates and, critics warn, potential surveillance without local oversight. One international relations scholar put it bluntly, Beijing's control over data is now nearly as important as its control over water. This is more than a race for market share. With each cable laid and every server farm launched, China weaves a lattice that can withstand sanctions, reroute global traffic, and lock in digital standards on its own terms. Civic tech activists in Nairobi and Jakarta are calling for audits, worried about the price of digital dependence. Yet the network keeps growing, invisible but inescapable, a mesh of power that's harder to cut than any road or railway. If the old levers were water, steel, and oil, the newest is data itself. And the question, as the world plugs in, is who really holds the switch? China's South-North Water Transfer Project moves 14.8 billion cubic meters of water every year, reshaping daily life for 250 million people, while displacing over 345,000 along its route. The Three Gorges Dam generates more than 100 terawatt-hours of electricity annually, but its reservoir has triggered landslides, such as the June 2009 Badong disaster. With the world's longest sea bridge at 55 kilometers, China now links major economic zones in under 30 minutes. Yet, documents show that marine ecosystems and local communities face ongoing risks. The $62 billion Gwadar corridor offers Beijing direct Arabian Sea access, bypassing traditional choke points, but security incidents remain frequent. While 33,000 kilometers of digital cables and 15,000 5G sites now connect over 70 countries, concerns about surveillance and digital sovereignty persist. Many operational and environmental files remain classified, leaving open questions about long-term impacts. What is clear? These projects have fundamentally altered China's position in the world, combining resource control, infrastructure power, and digital reach on a scale never before documented.